All right, welcome back everyone to the What Do I Know podcast. I mean, it's been a hot minute, but if y'all have been watching for a little bit, y'all know this whole entire thing is just about realizing we don't know anything, because strive to live that by the saying that the more you know, the more your island of knowledge grows, the more your shores of ignorance grows as well. Today is May 8th, 2025, 8:35 p.m. Now, if y'all have been watching for a little bit, my background's changed. A lot's been going on in my life, and it's been one wild adventure. Now, this whole podcast isn't... The whole purpose isn't to talk about me, my life, yada, yada, yada. It's all about to talk about the knowledge and experience and perspective I have as well as other people. And, I mean, obviously it's a lot different moving downtown to having this type of background, this setup, but I like it. I get more space. It's pretty dope. I also started a new job. Now, I say that because I am winging this like I always do, and I guess I've met some interesting people since the last time we've talked, chatted, whatever you may want to say, since I've talked to myself like a crazy person. But I've met some interesting people. The new job I work at, there's this really awesome dude who's really chill, and it's got me thinking on how people view the world and frameworks that we have. I've spoken upon frameworks in the past, but like talking to certain people and looking on the internet and seeing how some people are certain in their ways, and that no matter what you show them, they're certain they're right. And it's just thinking to a point that, at least for me, I try to have my beliefs open. Even if I believe something is completely wrong, like a conversation I had a few hours ago with a gentleman I work with. He believes the Earth is flat, and that telescope, and that we're inside of a dome. And I was trying to explain to him, like, I showed him a picture of basically all these different power lines, same height, same height out of the water, going over the horizon. You can see the arc as they slowly lower. They're all the same height, and it shows the distance. I also showed him the video of someone who believes the Earth is flat that set up their own experiment. That there is basically a wall with a hole inside of it, and I don't know exactly how far away. I think he said 17 feet, but I think it's further than that. I don't know exactly, but basically X amount of distance away, he has the same exact height cut into another wall. So there's a wall with a hole in it, same distance, X amount of distance away, same height wall, same hole, right? His theory was that if the Earth is flat, that at 17 feet, I'd be able to see the light come through a camera, through the hole that I made on equal size that are the same height or the same distance off the ground. But if the Earth is round, I'll have to raise it to about 23 feet or above the head, and then we'll be able to see the light. And they run the experiment, they don't see it initially, and then they raise it, and then they see it. And he was like, no, the Earth is still the center of the universe. The sun revolves around the Earth, and the Earth is flat. And I was like, okay, well, there's 2 points of evidence. What can you give me as evidence? And he just kind of went around it, to each their own. But it got me thinking on, like, the fine line of how dangerous it is to think that you're right. Because if you think you're right, then you can't be proven wrong in your mind. And until you have an open mind, you're never going to grow. He's a smart guy. I'm not trying to bash him. If you're watching, man, I love you. You're like a brother. You're really chill. You're dope. I'm not trying to bash you, bro. What I'm saying is that in general, from my experience as well, from being someone who's done this, and I'm assuming anyone who's watching this has done this as well, they were steadfast, they were certain, they were right, and then someone like, for me, my mother, stepped in and was like, well, Tyler, this isn't how it is. And I was like, no, trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm wise, I'm old enough to figure it out. Some 16-year-old kid talking to his 40-year-old mother, or 30-something-year-old mom, in that time frame. And I come to find out I was wrong. And it's like, wow, what do I really know? And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to what do you really know? You don't know anything. All you know is just what you believe is true. And I actually had this really interesting conversation with a kid. He was like 18. It was, I think, last weekend? Yeah, last weekend. I moved over on King's. I moved on to King Drive in Chicago, and there's a basketball court a while, not too far away from my house, decent walk though. And I was over there, and this kid walks up, and him and I are talking back and forth, just talking. He's gonna go into mathematics over in New York, which is really interesting. He doesn't know what field yet, but chill dude. His name was Adam. I hope I run into him again. Didn't get his phone number, but chill dude. I would have liked to have more conversations with him, but we got to some esoteric stuff, and eventually we got around to what's the difference between what's the word? Not divide, delineation. Is that the right word? What does delineation mean? What does delineation mean?
Delineation means the action of describing or portraying something precisely. Do you want to hear the remaining one?
Oh, well, I guess that's not the word I'm meaning. What are the definitions, or why is truth and fact different? And if I recall correctly, let's run through the conversation once more. Basically, we were talking that, so the difference between truth and fact. I believe, through the conversation, I didn't know what it was when I first started out, but just articulating and talking, just using my logic, and just talking back and forth with him. Well, me just talking, and then him, not interjecting or having an opposing viewpoint or opposing logic or challenging the logic. It was facts are observable things that are reproducible, and the truth is built on a multitude of those provable, reproducible pieces of evidence. Whether it's multiple points of observation, whether it's an individual's perspective, whether it's a measurement of distance, whatever it may be, the fact is gravity is real because for some reason that pen fell. There's obviously air because our body needs oxygen and argon, apparently, because that's in the air. Yeah, I learned that recently. I thought, so the air is mainly made of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and 9 or 0.9% argon, which I never knew. But, yeah, so the truth is a culmination of facts. Facts are perceived, measurable, reproducible things in general. But that's a tricky one. How can perspective be reproducible? So, let's say a whistleblower, right? They have to bring facts. Well, facts is their perspective, but not everyone's going to believe their perspective. So I guess facts is a culmination to make the truth. So a whistleblower has to have more than just their perspective to make it true. Okay, there we go. Challenge the logic, please. Because that's kind of tying it back to my earlier point, is that it's hard to have a viewpoint and a mindset of having your worldview challenged. Because I think a lot of people today, politics and just in life, from me too, my personal experience, as well as those around me, is that people attach their self-worth, their identity, to their ideas and beliefs. And whenever someone does that, whenever they have or meet or come across a opposing viewpoint or something that challenges their worldview or that comes with different facts or different facts, and derive different truths from those same facts. And there's also people who come up with things that aren't, people that come up with things that aren't even facts. But my point being is that a lot of people attach their identity, their self-worth, and a tribe aspect of it to their beliefs, to what they believe is true and false and what is right and wrong. And if you aren't willing to have those open and challenged and have a civil conversation and not get emotional, if you aren't able to have a conversation about someone who has different beliefs than you, and you say, hey, why do you, explain to me, tell me your logic, talk to me. And then you have to actually, here's the hard part, right? Instead of hear them and wait for your turn to speak, instead of hearing them oh, you're wrong, this is why, you gotta shut that off and be like, you gotta be able to pick up on the wavelength, the information, the data stream, the frequency that they're giving off to see their perspective. You can only do that if you have an open mind and you welcome those to challenge you, and you can only do that by going under the presumption that I could be wrong about everything I know. And that's a terrifying concept to think about, because like, imagine every single thing you know is wrong. You could correlate that to some experiences in the past of like your whole life getting uprooted. Parents got divorced, someone died, someone got a new promotion, moved schools, someone just got bullied, whatever it may be. Tons of different things. It's similar to like uprooting yourself as a child or in a job or anything else like scary and life-changing like that. Having your beliefs challenged is terrifying and very hard to do. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to persevere through that, but also be willing and open to actually have those type of debates, at least nowadays. Because, like, I mean, the whole presidential thing, I used to hate being political. It's stupid, tribal nonsense is what I used to tell myself, and it still is to a point. But policies in general, or politics in general, dictate the ebb and flow of the world around us, whether people like it or not. It's a game we're in, so it's the game we gotta play. And I saw this really interesting clip where, I forget when, but it was a presidential debate. I forget with who. I want to say Reagan, but I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. But basically, like 40 years ago, it was before Bush, if I recall. I think it was before. It was definitely before Obama. Definitely before Obama. So I think before 2008 was it when he was elected. I think, I don't know, but yeah, because Trump was elected 2016 to 20. Biden was elected, yeah. So like 2008, whatever, before Obama. So in the 90s, let's say. And they made it, one politician, I forget who, said very specifically, I think it was the not the organizer, who's the interviewer? Who are the people on the panel, like one to two people who asked the candidates questions, whoever that person is. He asked a question about age, about how much older or how much younger his running mate, his opponent was. And I think the guy who won said, "I will not make this about age. I will make this about policies and leadership." Now, fast forward, 20, 40 years? No, definitely, like 30 years at least. It's the exact opposite. People in our legislative house are cussing each other out. It's much more tribal nowadays, and I don't want to be a political commentator. I don't want to get drawn up in all that stuff. But as what my grandfather said, common sense ain't that common no more. And I think that nowadays everything is very, very tribal. Everything is very, very emotional. Not as much logic. And I think we're at this weird point in American politics. This is May 8th, 2025 at 8:48 p.m., right? So some 20-year-old kid going on 21 in like 3 weeks, basically. 2 weeks. But it's to a point where we're not united. We're too tribal, idealistic. Like, a chick broke up with me because of we agreed on 80% of things, and just because of a slight delineation of perspective that wasn't that dire to our everyday life or how we treated people was a good enough reason to break up with me. To each their own. There's probably more to the story than I'm letting on. There's probably more to the perspective and hers. I don't know. She told me I'm a good boyfriend, so I'll leave it at that. But my point being is that if we're so divided that even though you like the person, you like the future, you like the path they're on, you like their personality, you like their characteristics, you like their morals, you like their principles, you like their frameworks, you like their energy, you like the way they hold themselves, you like how they treat others, you like how adventurous they are, you like all these sorts of different things. And out of everything you like, 80% of everything you like, the 20%, which is more political, is enough to ruin a potential long-term relationship. That's my personal experience. I'm not trying to make it about me, but my point being is that if we take that one, my personal experience, and then blow it up across the whole entire country, between left and right, or whatever you want to call it, that's how divided we are. We agree on 80% of the stuff. And the 20%, this little tiny bit, granted, some things are very important, some things aren't as important. We're destroying one of the greatest human experiences on planet Earth. Like, how crazy is that? I think that's pretty insane. And at the same time, it's like, are we focusing on the right things? Like, the worse and worse Rome got, the more and more entertainment there was. Since 71, America's buying power keeps going down, 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 and down. Inflation is just like a tax on the buying power of the people. Because I like this little analogy. Let's say I have all the pens in the United States, and this is the only pen in all the United States, or let's say this is the only diamond in the United States, then all of a sudden you have a, 1,500 square feet boat, a barge, coming over from Africa, filled with diamonds, just like this one. That makes my one diamond, let's say, 100 million times less valuable. Same premise. If we only have, let's say, $3 trillion in circulation of actual paper money, of fiat money, and then we print another, let's say, $20 trillion, all of a sudden that $3 trillion is 20 times less valuable than it used to be. And that happened in 2008. It happened before 2008. It happened in like 82, I want to say. It happened sometime in the 80s. During the gas crisis. It happened in the 2000s. It happened in 2019 during COVID. And it's not getting better. Granted, Trump and Biden both printed a lot of money. Not my preference, but end of the day, we're not talking about that. We're talking about transgender nonsense. To each their own. As long as you don't shove your ideas down other people's throats, I don't care, which it seems like sometimes it was happening. But here's how I view the world and how I view the whole issue, right? I hope you live in reality. I'm going to treat you with the same respect I treat every single other person until you give me a reason not to. I don't care what you do as long as you don't hurt yourself, others, the environment, and you don't shove as long as you don't hurt others, the environment, and you don't shove your morals, principles, and frameworks down other people's throats, as in like yelling and screaming and morally degrading them instead of having a civil debate, I got no issue with you. If you don't do those three things, once more, I don't care what you do with your life. We're in America, the land of the free. As long as you don't hurt others, as long as you don't hurt the environment, and as long as you don't shove your ideals down other people's throats, who gives a shit what you do? Simple as that. If you're 18, you want to cut your dick off, cool, you do that. Just don't shove it down don't shove that idea down a 13-year-old's perspective. There's no point for that. Don't make me call you Zer. I'll just call you by whatever name you introduce yourself with. Who would have thought? Like, hey, yo, come over here. Bro, what's up? Like, bro. Bro is a ubiquitous term. Okay, girls, heads up. If a guy you like calls you bro, most likely he thinks of you as a sister. Food for thought, girls. But like, guys. Hey guys, how you doing today? That's pretty ubiquitous. That's not just saying all men, it's just saying group of people. That's at least how I use it. Same thing with y'all. Like, how y'all doing today? It's a group of people. I don't know. But, yeah, it's like we're talking about all these. I don't want to be a political commentator. Maybe, like, why is it important to talk about politics? I should better ask myself. It's important to talk about politics, even though it's stressful and tedious and it seems stupid, seems ignorant. It's the future of this nation. And it seems, from my perspective, and I'm still developing this myself, but it seems America only thinks in 4-year cycle at best. Short-term gratification. the fastest way to get rich, the fastest way to do XYZ, fast, 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 which is partially why we've innovated so much over such a short time. New iPhone every single year, new big movie every single year, next best car, next best album, etc., etc., next great fashion thing or whatever. I don't know. But next, new, you know? And I think compared to other countries, let's say one of the biggest economic powers, if not the biggest, China. I've heard rumors and somewhere on the internet that they have at least century-year-old plan. And same thing with what was it? Kresmagon? Oh shit, I messed up. That dude's oh crap. I don't even know if I'm able to cuss on here. I don't really care, I'll be me. But what was it? Russian KGB agent Marxism. I did not spell that right. What was it? What was his name? Yuri Bezmenov. This one, right here. Oh boy. Come on. Yeah. Basically.
And yet these people have been programmed, and as you say...
Ah, here, perfect. Let's listen to this.
Themselves, their families, their community. The main effort through the advertising, probably. That's why you're...
Okay. Very
You
beginning.
spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it? Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There's no mystery. There's nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. Mr. Bezmenov was born in...
Okay, and that, I'm going to keep playing that, but that was recorded in 1984.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place, and who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country? Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock, when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda.
I don't know who those people are.
For criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years.
Okay, he just said the demoralization. Okay, context. You can watch the full interview if you look up something like this, right? I'm just playing a little short, which is this right here. But he just said the demoralization process takes a long time, and this was 30 years,
Actually,
1984.
Because demoralization now
1984.
reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized,
Which is equivalent to indoctrination.
is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation. Of the
Short-term think. What is he trying to say? From my understanding, he's basically saying you will not understand the ramification of your actions until it's too late to change them. Whatever that may mean, and he'll go more depth.
So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now.
Mind you, I'm going to keep reiterating this. 1984. That is... I'm going to have to do math. Give me a sec. 70 plus 72 years, if I recall, if I do the math right.
Here, this minute,
Almost a
start
century.
educating new generation of America. It will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes...
Just food for thought. Have the last, let's say, 3 heads of health department been like in good shape? Look like they were able to like do a pull up, push up maybe, run a little bit, even though they're a little older. Has the food pyramid been flipped from being mainly grains being as the fundamental base to what it should be, which is fruits, fibers, and proteins, and then fats and carbs? I don't know.
From 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in...
Let's think. Crisis. Well, 2008, financial crisis. 2020, January 6th.
In Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis.
Defund the police. And then all of a sudden there's private security forces in certain parts of California. That there's some people saying that we shouldn't have the right to defend our homes and yet hire the same weapons to guard them. Either way, food for thought. And at the same time, a lot of people die by guns. I think it's like 30,000, 35,000 people a year die from gun violence. At the same time, about 50,000 people die from cars.
To promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market.
1971, we were taken off the gold standard. It became a fiat currency, and since then, the United States has lost, I think, 97% of its buying power since then, which destabilizes the average person's buying power, which makes everything more expensive and devalues human labor. So, let's say minimum wage is $15 an hour here in Illinois. That same $15 an hour is worth less and less and less as every single year goes on. 10 years ago, $15 an hour was way more. 20 years ago, $15 an hour was way more. That's why people see like $1.50 for whole ass meals, because there was more value in the $1.50 than it is today.
Competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins. Never mind, he will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control.
Let's go both ways, right? Trump having a good relationship with Biden. Trump having a good relationship with Putin. At the same time, Biden's the best he's ever been. He's not senile. Dude can't even get off stage without arrows. I don't know.
Is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. United States is in a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system.
Well, I remember back in like 3rd grade, 4th grade, so shit, that would be like 2006, 2008. 2018, 5 years. No, it would have been like probably around 2009, 2011, that time frame. I don't remember. 3rd grade, 4th grade. I remember being told that we're not going to be taught how to read cursive anymore, write cursive anymore, which then means that my brother's generation doesn't know, or my youngest brother, Brandon, who is a freshman in high school right now, he can't read the Constitution. That's crazy. On top of that, the whole nonsense with like Yale and Harvard stuff that's going on, or happened.
And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system, or the world communist conspiracy, whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking, but every second the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike
Now, there's this really cool book that I read about a year ago called The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. I gave the book to a friend of mine. I want it back, but he's in Wisconsin right now. And basically, Ray Dalio started a company called Bridgewater, where he came from nothing, went to school, and started an investment firm. And now I think he's under control of like $27 billion with a B dollars in assets, and trades them in macroeconomics for a more everyday thing. He was the one who brokered a deal between McDonald's and where they get their beef supplies. He made that deal. He was the one who brokered it, the middleman between McDonald's and the beef supplier. And everyone knows how big McDonald's is. Ray Dalio helped them find their meat source. To put in perspective how I'd say, either adept he is on macroeconomics, as well as how powerful and perceptive he is. The book, The Changing World Order, is basically an overview looking back at the 5 great empires, French, English, Spain, the Dutch, and China, and looking at why they rose to global superpowers and why they fell from global superpowers. There are 17 main things that basically were indicators for the rise and the fall. Number 1 is education. For the rise, the most important thing for the rise of a nation is the education of it. 3 things that indicate a fall of a nation: spread out of resources, internal conflict, internal debate, and breakdown of the money system. At the very end of the book, he gave an analysis of where America's at after explaining each and every one of those great superpowers, and he gave a 5-stage system of rise, conquer, at the peak, decline, collapse of global superpower. He gave America 4.5 out of 5 out of total collapse. This guy, former KGB agent, says something similar. But one's back in 84, one's back in 2020, I think.
Still, you will have nowhere to defect to. Unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so what do we do? What is your recommendation to the United States?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number 1. Number 2, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state, big brother government. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The second thing, the moment at least part of the United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity. I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no...
Food for thought. Okay, preface. I don't want anyone to have their opinions or anything swayed by me. I just want to give little seeds of like, oh, that's interesting. Why did he mention that? Where did he get that perspective from? What's going on here? For example, with the whole U.S. aid thing, there's been money sent to aid the Taliban, if I recall correctly, and to incite other sort of things throughout the world that a lot of people would perceive as negative or bad. In different aspects, some people think the trans thing is good, some people think it's bad. Some people think that we need to support certain groups to overthrow the government, to have positive American supporting people in power. To each their own, whatever you think, but do your own research, look into it, and come up to your own conclusion.
The problem, more burning and urgent, than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world.
And I'm not the first person to say this, but, I mean, what happened to Iraq, Iran, all the Middle Eastern states that we invaded after 9/11? Why did we invade I think at least we invaded 2 to 3 different countries, to my recollection, that didn't have anything involved with 9/11. And so why did so many guys my age die? And why did we invade those countries? Why did Eisenhower warn us about the military-industrial complex before he left office? And mind you, he was a general before he was president, if I recall, General Eisenhower. So why does a general who was a president warn the people of the United States about a military-industrial complex? And then 1984, why does a former KGB agent defected from the Soviet Union also warn about his homeland's military-industrial complex?
And it is very easy to do. No credits, no technology, no money, no political or diplomatic recognition, and of course no such idiocy as grain deals to USSR. The Soviet people, 270 millions of Soviets, will be eternally thankful to you if you stop aiding a bunch of murderers who sit now in Kremlin and whom President Reagan respectfully calls government. They do not govern anything, least of all such complexity as the Soviet economy. So basic, two very simple, maybe too simplistic answers or solutions, but nevertheless, they are the only solutions. Educate yourself, understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself.
1984.
You don't have much time, especially if you're talking about young generation. There's not much time left for convulsions to the beautiful disco music. Very soon it will go, just overnight. If we are talking about capitalists or wealthy businessmen, I think they are selling the rope on which they will hang very soon.
That's an old communist saying. The capitalist will sell you the rope you use to hang him.
Don't stop it. They cannot curb their unsettled desire for profit. And if they keep on trading with the monster of the Soviet communism, they are going to hang very soon.
Just food for thought. What about communist China? We used to be the number one steel manufacturing in the world, like Detroit, Michigan. And where did that go? I'm just curious. I'm actually really curious. It says assembled in the United States, but it doesn't say made in the United States. I wonder how much stuff around me is actually made in the United States. It says assembled in the United States. Strange. I don't know, but you can find a lot of things that say they're assembled. I don't think this will work. Yeah. But what happens whenever we rely on China for a lot of the medication? Like, I work in the VA right now, Veterans Affairs, and my job is to basically make sure veterans get their CPAP machines and their attachments that they ordered. A lot of the products are made in China. A lot of them are. So maybe instead of Soviet Union, because they fell apart, maybe Communist China.
And they will pray to be killed, but unfortunately they will be sent to Alaska probably to manage industry of slaves. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant. But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocies as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk about survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in for me? Survival, obviously.
Alright, it's May 8th, 2025, 9:19 p.m. And if you watched this far, that was a pretty scary message. And it's a heavy one, especially if you're around my age, or if you're younger, like my brother's age, who's a freshman in high school right now, or if you're someone in their 30s. Still scary nonetheless. And the question I have asked myself whenever I first heard this is, what can I do? Because I think, at least I've struggled with this a lot, personally, that the more I got scared to learn for a while, because the more I learned, the more I realized how terrifying and how scary and how fucked up it is. And that led me into negative habits, like eating pints of icing, my sugar addiction, an ice cream addiction, and staying up really late, and adult videos, because I'm a monster in there, and going to search for cheap dopamine whenever I thought about these scary things, and started thinking about what's outside of my control. And the only if you focus on what's outside of your control, you're gonna feel disheartened, weak, powerless, anxious, terrified, useless, unlovable, a waste of space. Coming from my personal experience, right? And I think I spoke upon this before, but if we learn and study, analyze, and look at everything around us, and always have our belief systems challenged, and always look for new facts and new truths, and understand the perspective of others, we'll be able to then take that information and focus on what we control, which is our attention, our effort, our energy, our time, our perspective, our internal narrative, our repetitive thoughts, our actions, our habits, what we eat, what we drink, what we listen to, the information we take in, the people we associate with, the vibrations, the energies we have around us. We control so much, yet we aren't taught to direct our attention towards that. We aren't taught to understand ourselves, to look deep inside ourselves, to really understand the system that is our mind. And whenever you learn, you put yours, like for me example, whenever I learn about that stuff, I go out there, I'm like, holy shit, what do I do? That's crazy. That's what can some 20-year-old kid do? What can some 15-year-old kid do? What can some 40-year-old kid do? What can we do? It seems impossible. And because I'm struggling to pay bills, or I just got broken up with, or I'm still in school, or my parents are divorced, or I don't have a family, or I'm in foster care, or I'm missing a leg, or I have diabetes, or I'm gay or trans, whatever. I don't care. Whatever it may be, whatever ails you, whatever makes you scared. Depression is a memory of the past. Anxiety is the fear of the future. And those all melt away whenever you focus on right now. That's a scary message. If you look around and you listen to what he says, and look at what's coming out of colleges, what's going on in our narrative, like how the hell did WAP become the #1 song? Like, how did we get from Frank Sinatra singing about love songs, Standing on the Moon, The Dead and Company, from Jimi Hendrix, from AC/DC, to Megan Thee Stallion and WAP? What happened there? Music's a representation of the culture. How did our culture change into some degeneracy, to promiscuity, which isn't healthy for anyone? What happened to where our education systems are questioned, where people question the experts, and rightfully so in some cases? For example, I got COVID shots, 2 of them. Healthy 20 or 18, 19-year-old, 18, 17-year-old kid. My mother, who has a thing called MOGS, most people, or some people may know MS, but multiple sclerosis. MOGS is that, but worse. She's on 2 separate immunosuppressants. Some people don't know what that means. So my mother, her immune system eats her nervous system. She takes 2 separate drugs to turn off her immune system. She got COVID and she didn't die. How does someone whose body is killing itself, and then they have to shut off the thing that keeps her safe from bacteria, get this super dangerous thing and not die? That's a good reason to question science. At the same time, my uncle's a pharmaceutical chemist. Very smart guy and a very good reason why you should believe in science. So then there's a disconnect between what is actual facts and truth and what's propaganda, what's a narrative, what's the perspective, the frameworks that others want you to have. You gotta figure that out for yourself. One-on-one conversation is different, but I'm putting this on the internet. And the whole point isn't about my opinion. This whole point is to just have people question what they believe, question what they know, ask about perspectives, learn about yourself, learn about others, learn about this great adventure called life. And something actionable you can do after hearing that. I'm working on my own little actionable things, and because I'm human, I'm struggling with this as well. I showed you that pint of ice cream, I wish. See, there, look at that. Negative connotation. But I have my own struggles. I have my own ailments. My room is nowhere near as messy, nowhere near as clean as it looks. But focus on what you can control. You'll fall down. You always will. Ooh, here's a good one. What was it? A prompt that page I wrote. I'll read it to you. Oh, bits and pieces. Here's a little prompt you should ask yourself. If I were coaching a younger version of myself, how would I guide him through the day with love and wisdom? I'll read it word for word. I said, first off, what you, younger version of you, or you, whoever's listening, you should so first off, what you consider failing is two things. One, you're actually learning. You're actually learning a lesson. So the more you fail, quote unquote, or the more you learn, the wiser, more mature, and the smarter you get. Number two is life will beat you down. It's a fact of life. It'll trip you, it'll blindside you, punch you in the gut, stab you in the back, rip your heart out, stomp on it. And it's up to you. Do you get back up? Do you choose to keep walking? Or do you choose to fail? Do you choose to stay on the ground? As the Grateful Dead said in the song Uncle John's Band, well, the first days are the hardest days. Don't you worry about the thing. 'Cause when life looks like easy street, there is danger at your door. I take that as in everyone has a dream, a goal, ambitions, and there's a price to pay for that. I think I've explained this before, but I view life like a quantum tree, right? You can't choose the seed, you can't choose your genetics, you can't choose where you're planted, you can't choose your parents or your family, but you can choose how high you grow. You can choose what possibilities, you can't choose what possibilities are before you, but you can choose what probabilities you increase. There are an infinite, let's say, innumerable amount of possibilities before you, no matter what age. Obviously, the older you get, the less you got, but I'd say someone in their 50s has way more possibilities than someone in their 80s. Like, by 40 years, twice your lifetime. Like Colonel Sanders, right? He didn't make KFC until he was like 73. If you're in your 40s, you still got time. If you're in your 30s, you got hella time. If you're around my age, we got to set ourselves up. If you're even younger, focus on living in the now. My point being, though, is that you have a near infinite amount of possibilities. Your awareness, your attention, your energy, your focus will increase and decrease certain probabilities of those possibilities. For example, there's a possibility of me throwing this window right this window. There's a possibility of me throwing my phone right out this window. There is a possibility of me eating the rest of this ice cream. There's a possibility of me turning off this computer right now. There's a possibility of the light going out. But what is more probable? I mean, I have no control over that light up there. I have control over where my phone goes. I have control over what I eat. I have control over when I turn off this video. So where am I going to put my awareness, and what probability of which possibility am I going to increase or decrease? So, yeah, sit on that. Yeah, until next time, y'all. Stay smooth.